So we will see you in 5 minutes, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So we are online now. We are live now.
Okay, we're live. Okay. So we should be careful. Oh yeah, live. I see.
Yes. We should be
My first time on Facebook Live.
Oh really?
Yeah, but I'm not really. You know, you are the only one I did a Zoom tasting, huh? I did no, probably I did another Zoom tasting. Maybe last year, but I'm not a big, you know, I normally don't, not good with these things, you know. I'm more old school.
Yeah, just a casual chat about the wine.
Yeah, for sure.
Don't worry.
Especially when we cannot travel. So
no.
Zoom bring.
Can you just give me another minute? Because sorry, just a minute.
可以唔用呢個嘅，不過就忙啲咯，我話忙。
我一開頭你啱啱開嗰陣時係，嘣一聲啲嘢出晒嚟，而家開始有少少收斂。
冇咩嘣啊！
你係咪專登揀3個？
要多放。呢隻冇事。而家爛到啲塊嘢咧，棘住咗嚿度。咦，我換啊！
你好換條？
換條。好，換翻嚟開。
應該差啲。
啊？
應該差啲。
唔使，我快。
Oof. Sorry. Crazy days. It's
Should we get started?
Sorry?
Should we get started?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I will start it in Cantonese first. Hello 各位，歡迎又嚟到 Facebook Live 啊，我姓范啊 ，Hello，
見到我啦。
我係 Tony，
係 Graham 你好。
咁上2個禮拜阿 Graham 你都介紹咗啲白羅啦，
仲有白羅羅啦，
係啦，
就上一度啦，試咗貓望呢度啦。
咁我哋今個禮拜咧嘅就會 focus 喺 Barbaresco。咁我哋今日想介紹俾大家咧，就係一個好細嘅 family 好家庭式嘅細酒莊，叫 Sottimano。咁佢有自己 own 嘅 vineyard 啦，咁有好多塊都係single single。
咁我哋上個禮拜試咗個 single vineyard 嘅 Barolo 啦，from Sottimano。咁今個禮拜咧就試下啲 single vineyard Barbaresco。係啦，
咁我哋今日咧喺意大利嗰邊就有呢個 winery 嘅 owner Andre 同我哋一齊傾下啲酒啦。
好 ，So welcome back everyone. This is Graham again. So next to me we have Sonny here, our Italian wine buyer. So it is a third episode of a Barolo and Barbaresco series. So last week we tried some single vineyard Barolo. So this week let's try some single vineyard Barbaresco as well. So on the other side of the camera in Italy, live in Italy, so we have Andrea Sottimano. So he has a small family vineyards located in Leve in Barbaresco area. So today we are trying a few of his single vineyard Barolo, and let's welcome Andrea. How are you?
Good. Nice to see you.
Good. So like for me, Sottimano produce very much terroir-driven single vineyard Barbaresco. So can you tell me more about the family and also the estate of your family?
Sure. Well, my name is Andrea Sottimano, and together with my father, my sister, we run our estate. It's a family estate in every way. It means that when you work in a family business, there is not really a strict job. I mean, you do everything. That means that I normally, that's the family. Now there is another sister.
And this is you before the beer.
No, Graham, that's me 10 years ago, sadly. But yeah, and then there is another picture in which there is also my sister. Yeah, that's it. That's the whole family. Also my sister Claudia, and she joined us in 3 years ago, the state, and it's good to work in a family. My father in the center founded the state in 1969, and from nothing. I mean, it was not a long history. Or my grandfather used to work in another direction. My father, Rino, started in 69. That's my father, and now he's 72 and he's still working alive. It's working more than me sometimes. So it's plenty of life. And he founded the winery in 1969 from nothing, from zero. So he purchased the first vineyards, and then after this he purchased another vineyards. The first vineyard was the Cotta, actually. So, and there were like at the time it was that's the vineyards, and this is the new section, and then on the other side you have the old section. We have in the Cotta, we have vineyards that are 50, 60, and 80 years old. After this, we purchased other vineyards like Pailleret, Currà, Fausoni, Basarini, little by little. That's it. That's the old part of Cotta. Cotta that's a special. We will talk about the vineyards maybe later while tasting. But this was a great start because Cotta, going back to the 60s, was one of the Grand Cru here in Piedmont. It was actually, even for the time, was very difficult to find. And my father, he was smart and lucky at the same time to buy that vineyards. From the very beginning, our estate worked naturally, means organic. So even in the 70s or the 80s, when it was not something very popular, my father always believed a lot in avoiding chemical products, in using only natural organic products, in doing everything by hand. And that's something very important, because when you refer to a wine region generally, or a wine producer, working everything by hand from the beginning to the harvest is very important to maintain the healthiness and the integrity of the fruit. After this, we moved from, I would say in the 80s and the 90s, our winemaking was a bit more, let me call it modern, if you want. So shorter maturation, using barrique for the aging. Then we moved at the end of the 90s to a more traditional, going back to our roots. Longer maturation, extended maturation on the skin, using big cask for the aging, and little by little now we have from the vintage we are tasting today, 2018. It's a vintage that is vinificated with very long extended maturation. I'm talking about 40, 50 days on the skin, and then 2 months in submerged cap. So it's a long time, and then two months in submerged cap. So 3 months totally of fermentation.
What's the reason behind that for this vintage, you have a longer maturation?
Well, change in the philosophy, the winemaking philosophy, is it? A bit changed?
Yes and no. To be honest, to be really honest with you, in the 90s, where it was the beginning of, if you want, of our estate, like in the 80s, and so at the time the market was more demanding wines from that kind of type. So a bit more fruity, a bit more soft, a bit more. But then we realized that it was not our idea. So it was something more related to the market that more related to the philosophy. So we little by little we went back to our roots, to what my father did in the 70s, like extended maturation, big cask, because the wines, I mean, our wines from the 80s and the beginning of the 90s were made in a, let's call it, modern way, but I would say that the wines are still good, but they're not probably reflecting the terroir in the way that they're reflecting nowadays. So now the wines, today we're trying 3 wines, 3 Barbaresco, and all these 3 Barbaresco, they are totally different, one to each other. And the reason is...
Sorry. So I remember before you told me you used barrique, like smaller oak, like a Burgundian oak size. And do you still use barrique now, or is it like half-half?
50-50. It's a good compromise, I think, because just big cask sometimes is a bit too much on one direction. I want the wine to be very clean, very with a good amount of oxygen during the aging. Barrique, old barrique. I'm talking about barrique like 10, 12 years old. So they give a good amount of oxygen during the aging, but at the same time they don't give the taste of food. That's what we don't want. We don't want the wine to taste of food, but we want the wine to taste of the region and the terroir where it's coming from. So it was not something quick. At the time, it was like 10 years to move from one, let's say philosophy, it's not, but from one direction to another. But now we are, from 2018, is the first vintage really where we have 50% one, we have extended maturation, so we have totally, this is a classic vintage for us. And it's great to taste now in 2018 for many reasons that we will discuss during the tasting. That's the harvest of Nebbiolo, the picture. That was great. We just finished harvest. Yeah. That's Nebbiolo. You see, Nebbiolo, you recognize it because it's very long. Very long. The berries, they are very separated, so they're not tight. They are not like Barbera. Barbera is more tight as a grape. Nebbiolo is more long. So this year was very late. It was very delayed, the harvest. And that's good. That's good because when you have a late harvest, you have more time to for every component of the wine to be fully ripe. And that's really very, very important.
The longer ripening season will get pretty great.
So Andrew, I have a question. So in the traditional philosophy of Barolo or Barbaresco, so it's a mix of vineyards. So to get different characters from different vineyards to create a wine that is complex and also balanced in a way. And so, but you are famous for is your terroir-driven single vineyard Barbaresco, like the Burgundian. So is it this philosophy is from your father or from day one to establish this vineyard, family estate, you have this philosophy?
Yeah, my father, during the 80s, we had only the Cotta, so we are only one Barbaresco. But once Payoret and Corra, the other vineyards arrived, my father decided to take the direction of the single vineyards. At the time, it was not really very popular because at the time it was more like a blend or fantasy names sometimes, or a generic Barolo mixed with single vineyards. Yeah. We were at the time during the 80s, we were not many producers to make wines with every single vineyard vinificated separately, but also because commercially it was not easy. Don't forget that Piemonte now is not Piemonte in the 80s. Piemonte in the 80s had huge problems for sales. So we had really, it was not easy to sell Piemonte in the 80s. And so in a moment where a wine is not easy to sell, then you add another difficulty that it's to sell a single vineyard, not just a brand, but also to explain why you don't produce one Barolo, one Barbaresco, but 4 Barolo Barbaresco. Yeah. That was another issue, but you know, it was great because from the beginning we were always recognized as a producer that pointed not on fantasy names, not on blend, but just on the single vineyard from the very beginning. Burgundian was also always an inspiration for me, for my father, because when you, it's not just a myth, but it's a way of working. So the first time I went to Burgundy, I was 20 years old, and I was shocked. Really, the world is shocked by the way they were working in the vineyards, naturally, organic, the way in which they treated the vineyards as we do. So we found a lot of similitude with the Burgundy and Piedmont. And then when we saw that at the time, we were producing only 3 single vineyards, and they visited some producer that produced 25 single vineyards. I would say, well, if they can manage to make 25 single vineyards, we can manage 3 or 4 or 5. So okay, that was great. I mean, it was a sort of inspiration and a sort of way to say, okay, that's the right way. Yeah. An inspiration in this area was always also Bruno Giacosa, for example. Bruno Giacosa, if you want, it's La Romane Conti of Piemonte, if you want. It's the one that from the 60s always produced single vineyards. Yeah. And he's living like 1 kilometer from here. So it's really, really, really important if you want in Piemonte. When you refer to history of Piemonte, Bruno Giacosa is a cornerstone, if you want.
And tonight we have 3 wines in front of us, which is we picked the vineyards from the
same commune,
same commune, Navy. So maybe we can talk about the wine one by one, so and you can share with us more details about the vineyard.
So are these vineyards located close to each other?
Absolutely. We have, so today we have Bazarine and Cotta. Between Bazarine and Cotta, for example, there are less than 1 kilometer distance. But you will see, and that's why, you know, sometimes people ask me why we work organic or why we work natural, depends on the point of view. The reason is that I don't really think that organic wines or natural wines, they are better. Talking about quality, better than other. I've tasted fantastic wines, really wonderful wines produced with plenty of chemicals. So if you want, organic or not organic is not an issue when you talk about general quality overall. I would refer about organic or natural when you want to this distinction between one and the other. So when you have 2 vineyards with a very distinctive characteristic, like Bazarine and Cotta, for example, and they are very close, they are less than 1 kilometer one to each other, you need to work them totally naturally. You need natural yeast. You need to avoid any filter, any fining. You need to avoid any kind of chemicals, both in the vineyards and the cellar. At that point, you have really the characteristic. So we start with the Bazarin, right?
Yes.
Bazarin, yes. So same village, same vintage, same, I believe same treatment to the wine, and also same vinification as well?
Same vinification, always. So for all the Barbaresco, we just do 40 days alcoholic fermentation. Then the wine, after 40 days alcoholic fermentation in wooden cask, we just push down the skin and we do a submerged cap for another 2 months. So basically, it's a 3 months long alcoholic fermentation. And Bazarin is all about the elegance, just from the nose. Bazarin is a. Can you show? Okay, that's fantastic, because here you see how much is high the Bazarin vineyards. Bazarin is about 420 meters on the sea, and in this picture give you the idea that it's very high because it's higher than the fog. You know, it's even if it's foggy over there, it's not foggy, so it's great. It's very steep. You can guess that it's very steep because you see that the penance is really a lot. Limestone and clay. That's even, you see, again, it's fantastic because when you are on the top of the Bazarin, normally you are always on the below the fog. It's so high that normally is over the fog. From this picture, you can see another thing. In the vineyards, we leave always, all year long, the grass. So you can whenever you visit us and we do a tour in the vineyards, you see grass everywhere. We don't cut the grass, we leave the grass even higher so during certain part of the year, because the grass is important, because grass leaves the soil very soft, very, then there is the life going on for the biosystem of the soil is important.
And so given that the high altitude of the vineyard and also is higher than the fog, so whether the vineyards will be warmer or cooler?
Cooler. The Bazarin is always the coolest place we have. It's always the last vineyards that we harvest. You can see from the color here that there is limestone and clay, because the soil, you can see, is a bit brownish on this area because it's the final part of the Bazarin when there is more sand and clay. But on the other side, during the direction of north, it's more white. You can guess it's more white because there is more limestone, more chalk. Here is. That's it. Wines that come from this soil is very poor. Normally makes wine that are more soft, more gentle. The nose of this wine is always a nose of spicy, every year. Very spicy, little fruit, some crushed herbs, but it's very, very pure, very elegant. It's probably the most elegant Barbaresco that we produce. And it's made exactly in the way of the Cotta, but you see the Cotta is totally on the other side. Cotta is more on the clay, is more powerful, is more intense, is more rich.
So I heard that the vineyard Bazarin is also not only famous for Nebbiolo, it's also famous for the Chateau. And what is the reason behind it?
Well, it used to be, finally, Bazarin is great for all the grapes. Okay. For Nebbiolo, for me, is the best, because Nebbiolo, you have to, in the 70s, on the 60s, it was famous for Dolcetto. But you have always to remember that the weather changed in the past 40 years. So the global warming affected also these kind of things. So while the top of the hill in the 50s was too cold and too windy for Nebbiolo, now in the past 20, 30 years, the condition, they changed a lot. Yeah. And so you have a condition that now is much better for Nebbiolo, because it's also good for Nebbiolo. You couldn't plant Nebbiolo in the 50s in that part of Bazarin.
So that's why it's famous for Dolcetto. People plant Dolcetto instead of Nebbiolo in the vineyard.
Well, also because there was a very famous vineyard, a winery called the Parroco di Neve. It was actually the priest of Neve that was making wine and planted Dolcetto over there. But don't forget also another thing. At the time in the 60s, it was easier to sell Dolcetto than Nebbiolo. So people planted Dolcetto because it was easier to sell. Nebbiolo was more tough. So the vineyards now that we have, the Basarin, is a vineyard of 60 years old. So it's a vineyard that was planted at the end of the 50s, but in a lower side. So not over there, but in a lower side. And that's where this wine comes from. The picture that you see, you know, it's where we produce the Langhe Nebbiolo. Below that, it's the Barbaresco. And that's very, that's it. That's where we have the Barbaresco Basarin. It's a bit lower inside. This is about 380 meters. Where we produce this wine, this is the Barbaresco.
Okay.
So in the same region, we produce Langhe Nebbiolo in the highest part and Barbaresco just in the central part. It's like in Burgundy. If you think about in Burgundy, the Grand Cru is always at the center of the hill.
So you don't plant you don't plant Dolcetto here?
No, we don't have Dolcetto over there because Dolcetto, we have our vineyards in Cotta and in a little part in Basarin, but in another site.
Okay.
And because Dolcetto for us needs lower altitude. I like 18 in a way that 18 is a vintage where you are really proud of, because there are vintages that are easy is not the right word, but give you the idea. Like in 16, in 15, you can make fantastic wines. You have the possibility of making fantastic wines. In 18, everything was really difficult.
How will you compare with 17?
I'm sorry?
How will you compare this with 17?
Oh, they are the opposite. The opposite. 17 is a warm, rich, fruity vintage.
Okay.
18 probably is one of the most elegant vintage in Piemonte from 2005, honestly. It's probably, there is only purity, only elegance, only finesse in 2018.
Yeah.
And
that's the wine, and this one is the most impressive for me.
Okay.
And I really like the elegance, I like the herbs and the spice, and also some dry roast aroma.
It's very aromatic.
Really nice.
Very elegant aroma.
Yeah, but that's why we're very proud, because 18 was not easy vintage at all. It was really tough. We had rain, we had some hail, we had a lot of problems. But again, that's why if you work organic, if you work in a certain way in the vineyards, you can save, because you start from the June, for example, to take off the leaves, to let the grapes spread in the middle, to keep everything clean. So even in a vintage that is very tough, like 18, you can have great elegance. We're very, very happy with 18, not just because the wines, I mean, honestly, I like a lot 18, but also because we know that 18 was so difficult to make in the vineyards, and we're proud to show 18 that in this way, because this is really a vigneron vintage, something that you in the vineyards. That's it. And it's also very important, the aging. So these wines, they stay for almost 3 months on the skin, also submerged cap. Then the wines, they stay for about 1.5 years, sometimes more, on the lees in big cask with no racking. We just leave on the lees. 50% to a big cask, 50% to a neutral barrique, but without racking. In this way, the wines, they work on the lees, they make malolactical on the lees, they really take the minerality from the lees. So that's why the aftertaste is not just a matter of weight or a matter of long or short. It's pure, it's mineral, it's very elegant. That's really very, very important.
So Adrian, I got a question. from the audience that I also get this question a lot of times. So I want to ask you that how do you say the difference between Barolo and Barbaresco, or in your opinion?
It's not easy, honestly, because I would tempt to say that Barolo tends to be a more bold, more powerful, and Barbaresco tends to be more feminine, more elegant, more pure. But and generally that's very true. But on the other side, we have region. For example, today we try the Cotta, or in Barolo you try, for example, La Morra, where you have Cotta in Barbaresco that it's very rich, it's very powerful, it's almost a Barolo. And then you have in Barolo some vineyards like La Morra, like I would say Castiglion Falletto, Verduno, where you have soils that produce wines that are very soft, very elegant. So generally speaking, I would say Barolo tends to be more powerful, more rich, and Barbaresco tends to be more elegant. But it's
very difficult to generalize two regions. Very difficult. Sorry. So shall we
know, because there is all the grapes and
the fries.
So they like sugar.
So shall we go to the second one? So it's Fausoni.
Yeah, sure. Fausoni, it's a beautiful vineyard. You see in the back you have the town of Neiva, and Fausoni. It's the first difference between Bazarin and Fausoni is the altitude. So Bazarin is almost 400 meters on the sea. Fausoni is 200 meters on the sea. So it's way lower than the soil here. If you see the color of the soil, is totally brown. Here there is sand and clay, just that. And you see the nose, how it's changed. The nose is totally different from Bazarin. So in Fausoni, the nose is more like mint, it's more fruity, it's more elegant, it's totally different from the other one. It's more classic in a way. That's talking about the difference between Barolo and Barbaresco. Probably, if I give you this wine blind, 100% what you say Barbaresco. That's for sure, because this is characteristical traits of all the Barbaresco wines.
And do you have your house style? Like how would you describe the style of all of your wines? Like, do you have a particular characteristic we can find in your wines, no matter it's Nebbiolo or Barbera or Dolcetto? How would you describe that?
I would say elegance. I would say elegance and terroir.
Okay.
I know terroir is a French word, but it's there is no is the perfect. No, really, it's a perfect word, because give you the idea. Because the other words you can use, they don't give you this kind of deep meaning as terroir. So even the Dolcetto, what we want the elegant Dolcetto, but that taste of Neiva. So the taste of our region. For me, it's more important that, my father always said that when someone recognizes your wine in a blind tasting, means that you did something wrong. That meaning that if people recognize Sottimano before they recognize Barbaresco and before they recognize Paiore, but if they recognize Sottimano, means that your winemaking was too intrusive, and that's a mistake. Because you got it. Yeah. It's important because, so to answer your question, for me, we don't really have, I would say,
house style.
House style. We prefer that every single wine has its own characteristic. So for me, normally it happens that people don't really get Sottimano. So it's something that in a blind tasting, Sottimano is the last thing that you get. First you get Barbaresco, then you say elegance, then you say Fausoni, then you say Neve, you say many things, and then you say Sottimano. That's what we want. We don't want that our estate was the first thing that comes in mind when you try our wines.
Yeah. What do you, which one you like better? These two vineyards.
I think for the first 2 wine we taste, I really like the first one. Fausoni. But for the second one, I think it is what you said, your wines are all very elegant. And this one, apart from elegant, I find more mineral tones here. And what about you?
Yeah, I like Fausoni. I like Fausoni. I like softness. Also the mouthfeel is more smooth and creamy. And as Sonny said, the minerality here. And
absolutely. But Fausoni, year in, year out, Fausoni is always very, very mineral. That's a characteristic of the wine. When we do a wine vertical tasting, what I like to point out, every single wine we try, is the characteristic in common between one vintage and the other, because the vintage changed the characteristic, but the basic traits of the wine, they remain the same. So Fausoni is always very mineral, is always very minty, is always very little fruit. That's Fausoni. Pasarini is more spicy, is more elegant, is more. And you see Cotta is again different, but that's something that we really want.
Yeah, let's try the Cotta now.
Sure. So Cotta is the first vineyard from the family, right? As you mentioned.
My father bought the Cotta in the '69, and then we purchased another. Now we have 3 hectares in Cotta. At the time, it was only 1. And when you move from Cotta, I'm sorry, when you moved from Basarini from Fausoni to Cotta, you immediately see the difference. You see, Cotta is the same altitude of Fausoni. So it's 200, maybe something more, 250. There is another picture of Cotta that it's even better to show how is...
this one?
That's it. In this, you see that it's very windy. You know, wind, it makes a key role for the... Because you see there is you see the valley, and you imagine that it's very windy because the valley is a sort of emphasize the wind.
For me, on the aroma, it's a bit more smoky as well. Do you think so?
I'm sorry?
A bit more smoky, richer.
You know, I don't know why, but a lot of people find this kind of smoky characteristic in Cotta. And no, really, a lot of people. And you have to imagine that I tried the wines. I tried these wines many times. So I'm more, but I think it's this smoky or a kind of spicy in a way, spicy, something. It's a characteristic of the wine, really. Then after a while in the glass, the wine moved to more mint, more balsamic notes. This is a very, very complex vineyard. It's totally different from the other. This wine requires always a little more time for tasting. Yeah. So this wine, it's not a wine that you can try. You keep the glass for another half an hour, it continues to change. You see,
I guess the wine is made. You describe it as the Barolo in Barbaresco.
Yeah, it's much more,
more powerful.
Kind of structure.
A heavier wine, like in terms of the structure and the power.
You feel the power. Yeah. It's more rich, it's more powerful, it's more intense. Cotta is totally different wine. But what I like about this Cotta is that, of course, it's a wine that is very powerful, but beneath, you see the finesse, the elegance. You see that the wine has a great elegance beneath. The minerality again. The tannins are very soft and very polymerized. The aftertaste is very fresh. It's very again, mineral. It's not huge. It's not. So that's why is Barolo, if you want, from the refer to the other one, but keep the characteristic of Neve. Neve, generally speaking, is always a region where the wines tends to be more elegant. When you think about Neve, you think always about a region where the wines are more refined, classic. Classic is the word for Neve. So classic, elegant, pure wines.
And what about the style of another two main village, Barbaresco and also Treviso?
In Treviso, we have Pailleret, and Pailleret is totally different. Pailleret, first of all, is a very high vineyards, like Bazarin, like 400, 380 meters. But the difference is that over there is more chalk.
Okay.
More limestone. So the wines, they are more elegant, they are more mineral. But in Treviso, generally, probably the only thing about Treviso is that the wines, they tend to be a bit more tight, a bit more close in the beginning. All the wines from Treviso. They require a little more time, but they are not huge, they are not hard, they are not harsh or tough. They are just a little bit closer because that's a terroir from Treviso. But once they open, they are really, really beautiful wines. In Barbaresco, I would say that Barbaresco is more close to what we have in Cotta. So of the three wines today, probably Cotta is the one closer to the region of Barbaresco. And Cotta, if you see from the map, it's really on the border from the commune of Barbaresco. So it reflects some characteristic of Barbaresco, especially the ripe fruit, especially the richness, especially the wines that tend to be more fruity, more rich, more powerful in Barbaresco, normally. Okay. But again, generally speaking, it's not always.
Yeah. So I believe that the Cotta is the oldest vineyard. So what about the final age of another two?
I'm sorry, what about?
So the age of the vineyard, the vines of Bazarin and Fossoni?
In the Bazarin, we have, it's only the older vines of Bazarin that are between 50 and 60 years old. In Fossoni, there are 40, 45 years old. And in Cotta, we have vineyards of 50, 60, and 70 years old. So basically, we are very lucky because we have a lot of older vineyards. And working with older vineyards is always a great thing. Because older vineyards, they make lower yields, they reach the perfect ripeness. They are very different.
So like in Hong Kong, there's a lot of Italian wine lovers, and they want to discover like all the region in Italy. So, but we are always at a debate that some people say we shouldn't decant, for example, Barolo or Barbaresco, or we should open it the evening before.
One
day before, like the 24 hours before, rather than decanting it. What is your opinion on that?
Honestly, if I have to choose, I would prefer to open the bottle one day before. I don't like decanting for many reasons, but you know, I say once that you have bought your bottles, you can do whatever you want. I mean, it's yours, and you can even decant. But decanting, it's great for Bordeaux, it's great for Rhone, it's great for some wines, but they are kind of reductive. But for Burgundy, for Piemonte, for Brunello, Sangiovese, probably it's too much oxygen in one time.
Yeah.
And you have the opposite. Not always, but sometimes you have the opposite. You dry the wines out. So when you, especially young Barolo and Barbaresco, when you decant, after a few hours of decanting, you find something harsh. You find something dry because you.
Exactly, the tanning. Sometimes after the tanning jumps out.
Yeah. Tannins, they eat oxygen like everything. So probably I'm not a huge fan of decanting, but you know, I cannot say because otherwise sommelier will hate me. So but I would prefer to open not the day before, but for example, if I want to open one of these 3 bottles, I would say like
in the morning,
1 hour before, 1 hour before, 1 hour before, and then use big glass. Just let them in 10 minutes in a big glass, and it's much better than decanting. But sure. Again, it's a personal
option.
Yeah, I would decant wrong.
Just curious to know, among all the vineyards that you have, which one is your favorite?
My favorite?
Yeah.
There is always insect. Sorry.
Is that the fly?
Yeah. No, it was because there is sugar everywhere. You know, there is the grapes everywhere.
But it's right on the camera.
There is probably there is sugars also on the camera. Probably there is probably there is grapes on the camera too. No, I don't have really a favorite. No, but I will tell you why. Every wine is a story apart. So every one of these 3 wines that we have 6 Barbaresco. Today we have 3 Barbaresco to try, but every single wine is a story apart. So I know that, for give you an example, if I want to open a Barbaresco tonight, it will be Basarin, that's for sure. If I want to open a Barbaresco from, I don't know, 20 years ago, I would open a Cotta, for example. If I want something from for a big steak, or for something very tasty, very juicy, I will open a Cotta. If I want something more elegant, probably for something more like something lighter and good, I will prefer Fausoni. So you see, it's not something, it's like in Burgundy again. When you are a producer and you have wines from Chambol-Musigny to Bon-Romanée, it's not something that you have your favorite, but depends on what's your mood, it depends on what you want to taste with, it depends on many things. So I think that every one of these 3 Barbaresco has a different way to be enjoyed. And it's important. I know it's difficult to begin because you have to remember that Fausoni is more elegant, Basarin is more elegant, Cotta is more powerful. But once you know that, that's the passion of wine. So you know exactly that Cotta or a Barolo could work great with a steak. Basarin could go great with a plate of handmade pasta with the sauce. You know, that's the way I like to join the wines.
So you mentioned Bruno Giacosa, you mentioned Burgundy, and I wanted to ask where else you take your inspiration from? Like, which other wine region that you enjoy and take the inspiration from them to make your wines?
For me, I love Burgundy and Brunello. I love Brunello. I like a lot Etna in Sicily. Etna region is, in my opinion, is probably in 10 years, it will be great as Barolo and Barbaresco. Etna, sure, for sure.
And during the MGA thing, starting to do that, as well as in Brunello as well, they try to subsume the region, right? Do you think it's a helpful way to sell the wines?
Absolutely, it's totally necessary, because the first were Burgundy, and it's good because there is nothing better for a wine passion to taste the wine, open a bottle, and have a map like this in front.
Yeah.
So it's because, in my opinion, what I love about Burgundy, but what I love about Piedmont too, is the same. That sometimes you don't even have to know the winemaking. You don't have to know how the wine is made. It doesn't care, because if you have a wine from Serralunga, it will be very powerful, very intense. If you have a wine from Treso, it will be very mineral. If you have a wine from Neiva, it will be very elegant. So, you know, it's great. At that point, winemaking is just secondary. Of course, except the cases where you have extreme modern or extreme something. But when the winemaking is normal, is natural, is not intrusive, you don't really need even to talk with the producer sometimes. No, really, because I love in Burgundy, and that's happening in Piedmont too, where you have a region, you have vineyards, you know how it's going to be. Then, of course, the producer is important in a way to guarantee the quality, because, of course, Giacosa will always be fantastic wines. So if you want probably one of the best Asili in the world, you go to Giacosa or to Ceretto. You know, the producer that you know, they are famous. But producer, in my opinion, should be always something in a second, I would say, second way. It shouldn't be the first thing to consider. The producer should be only something that guarantee that the work in the vineyards is perfect, so the quality of the grapes are perfect, that the work in the cellar, it's guaranteed that bring the terroir in your glass. That's it. It should be something more, because what do you do in the cellar? What you do in the cellar, it's not really, it's important, but 80% is the vineyards. So 80% is what you do all year long in your vineyard. So I love to taste the wine in front of a map. That's why Etna, Brunello di Montalcino, many regions in the world, they're trying to, even another wine that I love is German Riesling, from Nahe, from Mosel, from all different, from Rheinhessen. I love German Riesling, and they are doing this. They're mapping this because it's important. People want to know why this wine is different. And it's different because there is more clay, there is more limestone, because it's more high, it's more low. That's the best. Otherwise, just to make good wines, the world is full of good wines. When you refer to Piedmont, to Burgundy, to Etna, to German Riesling, we're not talking about just good wines made in a proper way. We're making wines that transmit the terroir, that is the region where they come from.
Yeah, and also it helps the customer, the consumer, to understand more. You have a logic to follow.
Absolutely. Once that you enter in the mood, for example, if you love Piedmont and you buy, for example, the Masnaghetti book from all the map, MGA, and you see that, you can, when you try the wines, you don't only see that the wine is good, there's no good, is tannic and not tannic. You can really see that the wine is elegant because it comes from Basarina. It's powerful because it comes from Cotta. Sottimano is only the guy that is working organic, that is doing all the best that he can in the vineyards, and but that's the vineyards.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed tasting all these three wines tonight and see the different style and character.
Especially
from a very elegant one to a powerful one.
When we taste this side by side, is even more interesting. This taste side by side and with Andrea. And to listen to you and listen to how you describe the wines and the vineyard as well. And personally, I like Barbaresco a lot. I think people should drink more Barbaresco, not only Barolo. So
I agree.
So it's elegant, it's aromatic, it's more approachable sometimes, and is you can enjoy it as the same enjoyment, the same level as having a good Barolo.
Absolutely, absolutely. I totally
agree. Thank you, Andrea. Thanks for your time. And I heard that your harvest this year is pretty good, and I know that you are very
amazing. Amazing. Now I'm going back to my real dress.
Thank you for your time to have live with us.
Thank you for the opportunity. It was a pleasure, really great pleasure, and looking forward to see you personally, hopefully soon.
And then we will taste all the single vineyard.
All the 6 Barbaresco. Okay.
Totally, totally.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Ciao.
Ciao.